Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners to order. It is 9:02 a.m. on July 16th, 2024. Y'all would please indulge me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The mission of the Texas State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners is to establish and enforce policies to ensure the best quality veterinary and equine dental provider services for the people of the state of Texas. Mrs. Whitehead, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Gola,
Here.
Dr. Kreiner,
Here.
Dr. Skaggs,
Present.
Ms. Sue Allen,
Here.
Mr. Pardue.
Mr. Pardue is in traffic. He'll be here in about 15 minutes.
Thank you. Ms. Olivier,
Present.
and I am present, Victoria Whitehead.
Okay, we have a quorum, and as I mentioned, Mr. Pardue will be here shortly. Okay, next is consideration of approval of the minutes for April 16th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for this meeting?
Move. Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to clarify, are the reports from staff placed within the minutes?
So the reports from staff are not technically within the minutes, but they are in the publicly available board materials that are available before and after the meetings.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure our meeting minutes have kind of slimmed down a little bit, especially on discussions or reports, but making sure we have record of some of the data and statistics within our minutes.
Is there any reason why we don't just include those?
So we can going forward.
I would like to. I think it's important for us, especially as we're tracking the progression of the database and licensing numbers and different things. That data is important. So
Is that a motion?
I'd like to move that we amend the meeting minutes to include the staff report.
Okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Table of submissions first.
I don't think so, not for amending the minutes.
I'm happy to retract if the original movie wants to amend their motion.
I believe we can because we're just amending.
Yeah. Just amended.
Just-
Second. Yeah.
Any discussion about adding those to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now back to the motion of passing the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up, we have public comments. Anna, do we have anybody online for public comments?
No, sir.
All right. Seeing that we don't have anybody online for public comments, I will call up our first person. But before I do, please remember that these public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Our board will not hear public comment or testimony regarding any pending or contested case. So first off is Sandra D. Sledge, LED. You can come to the table up here and sit in front of it.
Thank you for the opportunity. In meetings past, my topic was title protection and delineation of duties. I just want the board and everyone to know my experiences since I was here and returned to my workplace. I've been walked out 3 times from my workplace. They wish for me to sign a change of job description, job duties, and I decline signing at the moment, so I do get walked out. I just tell them that I seek wisdom before I sign anything in life. I still work there. My personal experience as a citizen of Texas took my dog to the vet and had her spayed. I dropped her off at 7:30 on a day that I wasn't on duty that day. As kind of by design, that's the way they do things. I picked her up at 5:30. She was walked to my car, put in the back of my car, which I'm very grateful for. She's not a small dog. And on the way home, she complained a bit, and that was really odd because she loves to go. And she voided her bladder in the back of my car. And it flooded so much that it came up over the lip of the covering for the back of my SUV. It was designed to catch fluids, and she and I will live with that forever because that odor doesn't go away. They didn't walk the dog. I spoke with different staff members before I scheduled her to assure that they'd take a little extra care of my girl, but that didn't happen. It's not in the record that she was ever walked. I asked staff members days later, did they walk the dog? No. My goal in being there is to advocate for the creatures. I was there not as a licensed person, but as an advocate. And the surgery staff completed the procedures,
Sledge, your 3 minutes are up, so I'll give you a little bit more time.
left the building. They said, look over these dogs, we're going to lunch. And I looked in at a cage and there was a little red dog. He didn't lift his head. He didn't have palpebral. Found his temp to be 96, his heart rate to be 36. And I'm the only one. And I think they shouldn't have left and gone to lunch and left that situation. I'm just saying that there's things happening there. And that's just kind of an update on the experiences.
Thank
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate you being here. Okay, next up, for Jody Long.
Morning, y'all. As Dr. Gola said, I'm Dr. Jody Long. I am a veterinarian from Angleton, Texas, and I'm representing the Texas Veterinary Medical Association this morning as its immediate past president. I'm here to comment on the licensing fee increase, and I'm going to read a prepared statement for y'all. Most licensees understand that the fee increases are being driven by forces within the state's budget appropriations process that are beyond the board's control. We supported the board's higher appropriations request last session, and we continue to monitor its use of those funds. The new database system and increased staff to handle inspections and enforcement actions are tangible things that licensees will be able to see in exchange for their higher licensing fees. However, there is some concern that the entire burden of paying for these appropriations is falling on licensees during a time when we regularly see reports of our state's unprecedented prosperity and budget surpluses. Licensees would like to see the board pursue whatever options are available to it in the upcoming session to tap into that surplus to cover more of the board's appropriation. Our profession has already been net contributors to that surplus for many years, as the state has repeatedly sent more of our licensing fees to the general revenue fund than it has sent back to this agency that regulates us. We are hopeful that this history and more moderate budget needs next session will result in this increase being temporary, as the board has indicated it will be. Increased fees simply add to already high administrative and regulatory costs, which drives up cost of care to animal owners across the state. There is no reason to unnecessarily inflate these costs further when it could be avoided with a relatively modest investment from the state. Thank you.
We're going to move to agenda item number 6, director reports. I call on Brittany, our executive director.
Dr. Gola, before we do, our 2 online public commenters have arrived. Would you like them to speak?
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And yes, if you would please bring them forward. You have their name.
Yes, it's Jeff and Cynthia Pedrosa.
Let me know when they're on.
They should be on, their cameras are turned off.
Mr. and Mrs. Pedrosa, can you hear us? You might need to turn your microphone on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is
Good
Steve
morning.
Gold, Chairman of the board. Appreciate you being here this morning to make public comment.
Yes, sir.
You do have 3 minutes to make the public comment, and your time is available now. So thank you all for being here. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time, board. I'm just trying to get clearance on my animal who passed away due to a malpractice, I believe. I'm not sure what's going on with why the board's wanting to dismiss it or it's up for dismissal. So I'm just trying to figure out how to go by getting this resolved. That's it.
Okay, any other comment on this?
No, not really. I'm really up trying to keep my composure, but not breaking down right now. But other than that, no, sir.
Okay, Mr. Pedrosa, thank you very much for being here and bringing your concerns to our attention. We appreciate you very much and take your comments seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna, does that conclude?
Yes, sir, that does.
That concludes our public announcement for this part. And so again, we'll go back to agenda item number 6 and our executive director, Ms. Brittany Sharp.
Thank you, Dr. Gola. So I was probably a little bit quick in my executive director report released to the board that the new database would be going live today, as probably expected and anticipated with most large-scale technology projects like this. We did run into some last-minute issues around the payment processing that require coordination of a few other state agencies. We are currently working to resolve that issue. We don't anticipate it should delay the process significantly. We're still looking at a go-live probably within the next week or two, but are waiting on some confirmation from those other agencies before we can give that concrete go-live date. I will say this was actually about 10 days earlier than the initial go-live we initially planned, so we're probably going to be closer to our originally anticipated July 26th deadline. But we're very excited that we're making great progress. We've had our folks internally testing it. We've been running some tests on the system externally, and we're really excited about the different functionalities and things that this database is going to allow our agency to do. We're going to be able to automatically process licenses. Licensees will now have the ability to upload and manage their own continuing education hours, which will streamline that audit process on our end. We're looking for increased reporting, functionality, and data collection. So this is really, we're very excited about the progress we're making. Obviously, these delays are less than ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, we're pretty much still right on schedule. So unfortunately, not today, but by the end of the month, we should still be going live with this project. In other news, we have some minor staff changes that occurred. One of our licensing specialists, Linda Lewis, left the agency to move closer to family at the end of May, and we have posted for her position. So that is available and up on the website. If anyone knows any licensing specialists who would like to join our team, we are looking. And then in exciting personnel news, our executive assistant, Carol Ann Tackett, had her first baby, a baby girl, Danny, who was born at the end of May. Danny's already made a visit to the office, and as the first TBBME baby, we look forward to hiring her someday as soon as she's able. Second generation, keeping it all in the family, so. That's the major updates around the agency. Are there any questions for me from the board?
So other than that, are you fully staffed?
So we have 2 FTE positions that we have yet to fill, and Candace will speak to that a little bit in our budget report. There was some delay in getting the fee increase up and running, and so in order just to help sort of keep that, we've kept those 2 FTEs unfilled, but are looking to fill them in the next fiscal year once those new fee raises go into effect.
Brittany, can you just expand a little bit about the database and what its functionality in this first phase, what it is going to be able to do for us that we currently don't have?
Sure. So this is strictly a licensing system. So this is how all of our licensees are going to interact with the board on a regular basis. This is how they're going to apply for their licensure, apply for renewal of their licensure, and then now for the first time ever be able to upload their continuing education and manage that virtually. So this is how all licensees will interact with the agency. We're kind of this first line of defense in a way that we don't currently have. There's a lot of missing functionality in our current system that requires a lot of manual labor from our licensing team and licensing division that will now be automated and streamlined. So this is gonna make that upload process faster, our processing time's a lot speedier. So it's really just creating a more seamless and user-friendly experience for licensees. For our public members, it is also gonna increase that functionality on that public licensee lookup tool. So now, you'll be able to search by city. So if you're moving to a city, you can look up and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody in Austin. Show me all the licensed veterinarians in this area, or what that looks like. So the public's gonna have increased search functionality, and our licensees are gonna have a much more seamless experience when they go to apply for and renew their licenses.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Sharkey? Okay, who do you have next?
Next up, we have Wendy Womack, our licensing supervisor.
Thank you, Brittany, and we are very excited about the database. Hopefully, very soon we will have a seamless experience for the public and automated reminders and things like that. So that'll be much more efficient and save on paper and envelopes and time and stamping and all that. So we're excited about that. So the licensing team is reporting for the third quarter of FY24, March to May. So new licenses issued during that time, 316 new DVM licenses, 3 special licenses, 2 equine dental provider licenses, 54 LVTs, and 8 temporary licenses, for a total of 372 new licenses issued in the third quarter, and a fiscal year to date total of 743. So it's reflective of the graduating seniors. That's why it's such a bump in this quarter, where it's almost half of the entire fiscal year. The total license count for the agency, and there was some question last time, so I'm going to say exactly which things are included. When we're including the total agency license count, we're including all active members, all inactive members, which is still an active status. It's an active inactive. Expired but eligible for renewal, renewed, hold, probated suspension, and suspension. So those license count is 11,327 DVMs, 60 special DVMs, 28 temporary DVMs, 2,781 LVT licenses, 70 equine dental providers, for a total of 14,266 licenses that are in the categories I stated previously. This concludes the licensing team report. Are there any questions?
Wendy, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and that's a lot. Your third quarter is always the heaviest time of the year. I just want to remind you that this time next year, we'll have a 25% increase in the number of DVMs graduating in the state of Texas. So be ready for next year for that number to be well over 400. So
Because of Texas Tech, I'm assuming?
Texas Tech and the expansion of Texas A&M. So all that will hit in 2025, and then it grows again in 2026. I just want to remind you guys, we're going to need more resources this time next year so that we can keep up with our efficiencies.
Great time to have a new database.
Yes.
And this is one of the new FTE roles that we put into place after last legislative session, was an additional licensing specialist. We had not expanded that staff in almost a decade. So now we went from 2 to 3, and so now we're looking to staff that third position. But that was also done in anticipation of knowing that we've got a whole new school coming online next year. So trying to get everyone up and running and get a good season of applications under their belt before they have to deal with the onslaught.
Great job, thank you.
Do we continue to see LVT licenses increase on the same trajectory as
To look at those numbers, I can send you an email about that. Just
Thank
email me.
Mhm.
I'll send it back. I wanted to thank Sue for her hard work on the continuing education. She's Johnny on the spot. We have none outstanding right now. So she's really keeping track of those and taking care of them quickly and efficiently. So I wanted to thank her.
Board, any other questions for Ms. Womack? We will go ahead and then move on to Mr. Tacker with the enforcement report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So through the end of May, the third quarter, we have received a total of 420 complaints. We have completed 336 complaint investigations, leaving us roughly 260 open that are currently under investigation. We've completed 1,226 inspections through the end of May. That number is currently over 1,600 today. So we met our performance measures every month for inspections, which is a change. I think the last time, we met it last year, but it's been 2018, 2019 since it was previously met. And that's thanks for the funding, so we can travel. So, and the additional people to get that done. Out of them 1,226, there's been 66 complaints initiated that were open from them inspections. We've handed legal 237 cases, and we're roughly sitting at 260 open, and out of that 260, we have less than 20 that are still pending FY23. And they should be closed out probably by the end of next month. So we're on target to have all them completed. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Mr. Tackle, the question I have for you is, you've obviously increased the number of inspections this year. From a percentage basis, are we seeing more, less, about the same number of then reports filed with the board?
We are seeing more. It's uptick from last year. And I would suspect that we get close to 500 by the end of the year, just looking at it. So every year that I've been here, it's went up every year. So I would think we're going to probably hit 500 or be very close to it by the end of the year.
Is there a certain category that you would say most of them fall into?
Standard of care, that seems to be the number one complaint, standard of care cases.
Board, any other questions?
Just like to say, Mike, good job. It's nice to see that we don't have cases from 2009. Appreciate it. It's fair to the veterinarians, it's fair to the community, and we appreciate it.
I'll tell you, one of the hardest things I had to do when I got here in 2018, my first week, I was assigned over 120 cases. This was in 2018. Some of them were dated back to 2015, and the complainant had never been called.
Wow.
And when you call them, it's like, get ready, because here it comes.
Yeah.
So we have made leaps and bounds difference from 2018 to currently. Every investigator back in 2018, there was nobody under 120 cases assigned. And I think today, the highest caseload I have one investigator's got 47 cases. So we went down to over 100, down around 47. But that increases work on medical review, it increases work on legal, it increases work on admin. So we're almost there. We've got a fine-tuned machine that starts, and the cases are getting through the system pretty quick. A lot quicker than previous. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I need the record to reflect that Mr. Keith Pardue has joined us. Keith, thank you for being here.
Yes.
All right, next we'll have a report from Ms. Phelps, our general counsel.
So presently we have 344 complaints in legal. The breakdown is we have 44 cases that are pending informal conference, 121 pending board action today. 37 of those are approval of orders. We also have 65 cases pending approval from the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation. Those were cases that were approved at our April meeting that still need to be approved by TCLR. We have 10 cases on hold that are pending either civil or criminal proceedings. We have 23 cases pending staff conference, 15 cases filed at SOA, and 13 cases pending SOA filing. 3 cases that are pending cease and desist, and 13 that are pending signature of agreed order. So the projection remaining after today's board meeting, as well as the subsequent Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation meeting, would be approximately 145. Any questions?
My only question, and it's probably more of a combo question with you and Candace, is the number of cases we have filed in our current legal budget. Obviously going after them when needed and what that looks like within our appropriation request. So I don't know if it's appropriate to pause for when Candace gives her part or whatever y'all think is best.
So we can speak to that. So I mean, we have the resources necessary, and so that's not any restraint on the filing of cases. And so it's really just a consideration of staff capacity and also the quality of the cases. Most of the cases that we do have that were ready or pending SOA filing are some of our older cases. And so once we go back and do a really thorough review and get the case prepped for trial, we may find that, the investigative report was not sufficient, the medical review or one of those components is not sufficient. So it's really more of we have the adequate resources, but we're still trying to make sure that we have good quality cases to be prosecuting in SOA. And so you'll see some cases here today recommended for dismissal where our attorneys felt that they didn't have, the adequate facts to go after a case at the State Office of Administrative Hearings. So we're going to recommend dismissal of those cases. But for the cases that we do find, we're able to prosecute them. It's just a question of staff bandwidth and making sure that they've got a caseload that they can successfully manage.
But even expert witness funds, that's all within
We
our
are,
capacity.
yes.
Okay.
So we were given $25,000 in our appropriations last session for to prosecute those cases. And really the cases that we've had to take forward thus far have not required extensive court reporter or expert witness contracting. So we're still well under that budget item.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Phelps? All right, with that, we will move over to the compliance report from Mr. Monrath.
Good morning, board. The compliance department currently has 21 licensees that are being monitored regarding board orders. Compliance has seen requests for CE hardship extensions during this fiscal year decline. This can be attributed to CEs being able to be obtained online and more avenues for learning that way. The task of DPS fingerprint validations is continuing to take quite a bit of time to accomplish on a daily basis. It will continue for the next year or so, given the number of licensees that were initially fingerprinted in 2018 when the requirement came into place. Every licensee will have their fingerprints validated after 5 years to make sure that they are still an active licensee per state and federal guidelines. Staying on the fingerprint topic, 793 new fingerprints have been reviewed for applicants so far this fiscal year. I've also seen a bit of an uptick in our licensees getting arrested and failure to report to our agency over the past few months. The compliance department, myself, as of this update, has fielded 524 calls for compliance, licensing, fingerprints, CE, and general agency related questions from licensees and applicants this fiscal year. The number of calls is declining as more information is now on our website and employees are getting well versed in our agency's rules and regulations. The compliance department is also assisted with 161 internal agency related requests from the various departments as well this fiscal year. Lastly, CE audits continue to be performed by enforcement investigators during their inspections. The compliance department will, however, follow up with licensees that are found to be in violation or aid in CE related questions and has done so with 22 of our licensees so far. The new upcoming database will allow the process of CE auditing to become very streamlined as that mechanism currently does not exist. And I can field any questions if anyone has any.
I have just one question. What's the process for that 5-year renewal on the fingerprint? What actually happens and what do we need to do to find our DBS?
You don't need to do anything. So what happens is when you get fingerprinted in 2018, when your anniversary date of the 5 years happens, I'll get a notification from DPS in my database every morning. And it's normally between 30 and 100 licensees on any given day. And I'll have to go in and I'll have to look and make sure you're still an active licensee. And if you are, I'll follow you and continue to get the fingerprint notifications. If you're not an active licensee or retired or deceased or something like that, I have to unfollow you per state and federal regulations. I can't see your criminal history. So I have to go back and forth between a lot of different databases.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Jared, does that include LVT?
It does. Yeah. Yeah, and equine dentist.
I mean, you have a lot on your plate with the projected increase in graduates next year. Are you gonna have any help processing this additional fingerprint load?
No.
Well,
There's a session coming.
And we do hope that the database with the CE functionality will also sort of streamline some of that process so we can take some existing work off of Jared's plate when this increase comes in.
I know it's probably not legal, but could you keep an eye on Dr. Gola even after he's retired? And that's why. It's public interest to make sure somebody's watching criminal investigations.
Not gonna comment.
We need somebody to watch Dr. Skaggs.
FBI's already doing that.
Board, if there are no further questions for Mr. Honrath, we will move on to our finance report from Ms. Van Vlera, last but certainly not least.
Good morning. So we've just begun the fourth quarter of the fiscal year at the beginning of June with very little changes to our budget. We are around 83% of the way through the year, and we've spent approximately 51% of our budget. The agency has limited its spending for the remainder of the year to help with covering the costs of our appropriations that we anticipate we will not be able to cover with generated fee revenue. Which was also kind of what Ms. Sharkey had mentioned about us not filling those 2 FTE positions to kind of help with that. Proposed fee changes are on the agenda for the upcoming TDLR commission meeting on July 23rd for adoption. Following adoption, the fee changes will become effective September 1st. So help is on the way. So hopefully next year will be better. But that's my report. Anybody have any questions?
Hearing none, Ms. Sharkey, does that conclude your report?
It does, yes.
Moving on to agenda item number 7, board committee reports. I don't believe there are any, but does anybody have a report that they would like to share today? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 8, discussion, recommendation, and possible action regarding proposed rule changes to 571.7 veterinary license eligibility to be published in the Texas Register. And I recognize again, Ms. Sharkey.
Thanks, Dr. Gola. We received a request from Texas Tech as they are onboarding their first 4th year class. They've got a bit of a unique program in which their students in their 4th year are out in the field, working in clinics, working sort of as, you know, in more in practice rather than in the classroom. They're trying to bring everyone back around February of their final year of veterinary school to do kind of a week back at the campus, reconnect with everyone, and they'd like to at that juncture administer our state board licensing exam. So that's our laws and regulations exam. However, currently our rule states that any graduate attempting to take the test must be within 60 days of graduation. And in February, they're closer to about 90 days out from graduation. So they were asking us to amend that rule to bring that in compliance and allow them to administer that exam when their graduating class is back on campus altogether in February. So I wanted to leave it to the board for discussion on this rule. If you wanted to, some options could be to either do away with the time requirement completely or expand it or leave it as is, but wanted to get the board's thoughts and feedback on this request.
Just a couple of comments on that. And it does require that they have to have a letter from the dean stating that they are good standing. So it's not just a timing requirement. That's also written in rule.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, what does the rule specifically say? Or not the rule, the law? What's in the 801s?
So the 801 is silent on this particular, this is all subject to rule, which is why we're bringing it here. And so the rule allows or the 801 allows us to create the rules around the administration of this exam and when we can offer it to graduating students.
So as long as they are fully eligible in every other way, then it would be appropriate for them to take the state licensing exam, but they still would not be able to practice until they got their diplomas.
Correct. So currently folks can take it 60 days before they graduate, so that, you know, kind of that March to May time period. So there's a potential to either, like I said, either expand that to 90 or 120 days, or do away with the time requirement and just do it upon receipt of a letter from the dean stating that the student is in good standing and likely to graduate in this next graduation cycle. There's a couple of different options for you all to consider if you decide to amend this rule.
Along with passing the NAVLE or whatever other exams are required for them in order to take the state board.
Yes.
Yeah, none of that would change. I'm gonna just read the section that addresses the timing, just for clarification. If you all bear with me for just a second. So this is letter F, section 1 of the Rule 571.7, and it states, an applicant must be enrolled in an approved and accredited veterinary medical school or college as defined in 571.1 of this title and must obtain a document from the dean of the school or college from which the applicant expects to graduate, certifying that the applicant is within 60 days of completion of a veterinary college program and is expected to graduate. I think the request is to change that to 120 days to give them time so that when the students are actually physically on campus, they can proctor that exam prior to graduation.
Correct.
So why are they setting a deadline of February? Why can't they do what they need to do in March or May?
Because the students are not on campus in March or May.
But why not? I mean,
They're out in the field. The last time they have all the students together on campus, their senior year is in February. They bring them back one final time because their entire fourth year is out of the field.
I'm not sure why we need to change the rule to accommodate. They could call them back anytime. That the rule is a good idea because it's right near the end of graduation. You don't have the argument of, well, I can still practice, got my license. I'm able to do this and this and this. I understand their plight, but to me, it's just an administrative situation. They could call them back and.
It's the burden of the students that are in Brownsville and El Paso and Tyler and bringing them all back one more time when they don't have time to do that.
My argument is what's different in February and May.
It's just their schedule and how they have their rotations set up.
Can I ask, is there a difference from a veterinarian perspective of the timing in which this takes place? So for example, in law, we have to have an ethics exam. And that ethics exam can be taken at any point within 2 years prior to graduation. So, I mean, I think we put the burden on the students to know the laws and the rules regardless after graduation. To me, it's the time frame in which they test or qualify on it. I'd rather them know them sooner rather than later, right? So I question why 60 days was originally put in there to begin with.
Yeah, and I tried to do some research on that, and that was changed, that was put in the rule in 2011, and I could not find any reason why they picked 60 days, other than that's what Texas A&M was doing, and they were the only institution, in the state at the time.
So I think, knowledge of the board rules within a good amount of time prior to graduation is a great thing. The burden is on them to know them post-graduation regardless. So I think, even if we can get that earlier in the semester, I think that's great. Or at least their senior year, to provide flexibility. Not that we're making an exception for Texas Tech by any means, but that might provide West Texas A&M, who's gonna have similar style programs in that fourth year. Maybe we're providing some flexibility to, especially, I don't know, I just see that rural program as something of importance, especially in my neck of the woods. And so to question 60 days versus 90, 120, when it's something that, it sooner rather than later, it's an administrative thing.
So currently, if you are out of state or graduating from out of state, or you have a license and are practicing in another state, how are they taking the exam?
So currently, if they are a student, they still have to meet all of those same requirements, but the exam is offered online.
So are they not offering the exam online for the Texas Tech students? Or are they doing it all in person? And who's proctoring it?
So we do offer in-person administration currently for Texas A&M as our in-state institution, and we would offer that same benefit to Texas Tech, but you can take the test online
So
at a testing center.
in the event that they're working in Brownsville and they're 60 days out, they could take the exam online. Why is it necessary to have them all at the university taking it on the same day in the classroom when they could take it on the same day online?
That is a great question. Like I said, this was a request and we were bringing it to the board.
The only answer I can give you to that is my personal
I
experience.
think A&M pays for them to take it, so they don't have to pay if they take it at A&M.
That's okay, gotcha. Wendy, do you want to share?
The reason is because like for A&M, when they take it there all together, they don't have to pay for it. So we're not issuing individual test taking IDs that they have to pay for. So that's why they want to take it all together, and that would be the advantage at Texas Tech.
And I do believe the institution also offers study sessions with all the students together that they can attend, that they can study together. I mean, they don't just say, here, you're on your own, good luck. They do provide that, and I think it's also a service that we as the board get to show up at the school, introduce ourselves to our future colleagues, and say, hey, we're the board, here's your test, and there's some familiarity with that. I think that is the advantage. I would just remind the board that this is one state institution, Texas Tech, asking a request of another state institution to help them proctor their business and educate. I think they're the ones that know better on how and when that should be done for their students. Versus, a arbitrary day of 60 days that was made 13 years ago for reasons we don't know. To me, as long as the students have passed the NAVLE in their fourth year, which typically happens in November and December, and then the dean of the school is saying they're qualified, the timing of that to me really isn't that important unless we have a reason why we should keep it at 60 days.
Well, and I also agree, I think policy should be flexible and business friendly. When we have the time limits or certain things on there, there has to be purpose behind it. Like why would we be restrictive when we don't necessarily have to be? Unless there is valid reason for the 60-day aspect. But it sounds like it's something that just was put in as a timestamp at some point. And so I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the publishing of the rule.
And in that motion, what is the board's direction? So would the motion be, are you looking to 120 days, a deletion of the time requirement completely? I think if we could just have some specificity in the motion to direct staff, that would be.
Okay, I move that we amend the rule to 120 days prior to graduation.
Got a motion to amend the rule to 120 days prior to graduation. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, the rule is open for discussion. Changed. Any discussion?
My question is why we even setting a date if it doesn't matter? Was it have to be 120 days?
It really doesn't. That was the
I think it's just to make sure they're actually on track to graduate. Any further out than that, and then something might happen to them that they don't graduate before that time.
Okay, thank you. Is it gonna affect us negatively in any way? As a staff? Is it gonna?
I don't think it's gonna affect staff, I don't think, no.
Okay, good, thank you.
Will it assist staff? I mean, the proctoring of the exam at a university and kind of like getting a big chunk of them tested and done, would actually help us if we are helping foster the February exams?
I don't think it would necessarily affect us too much, just because they still have to get all their documents in.
Mhm.
So it's, 6 to 1, half to the other.
Maybe help pull it off of closer to graduation so we're not cramming in the second quarter. Sorry.
It's always good to get things out of the way that they can get out of the way, and then, then they end up just waiting for their transcripts to come from the school.
And I would follow up that question. Is it easier to get them all done at one time, or is it more challenging to not know when they're coming online and you just get them as they come? What is more efficient for you?
either way is fine. Like each day, we're processing the things that come in. So if their transcripts come in, we're uploading them. If this comes in, if that comes in. So if the scores all come in together, then we just process them as we can over the next week or so. If they come in separately, then they get processed normally. I think it's all part of it. I don't think it helps or hurts either way. I think it helps the students to have a physical place to go and have a plan for when they're gonna take it, instead of just trying, because once you log on to it, you have to take it all at once. You can't walk away and come back tomorrow, unless somehow your computer's been open and active that whole time. So I think it helps them mentally to just sit down and get it done.
So is there a time limit on the exam?
There's not an official time limit, but once it's begun, it has to be finished in what they call one sitting. So it could, in theory, be several days if in fact they were sitting there the whole time and active the whole
We call that the bladder time limit.
So does this in any way impact the LVTs for the EDPs taking the exam?
I don't think so.
No, because this rule is specific to veterinary license.
Just, yeah, so like when the LVTs finish taking their national licensing exam, they can at any time take the state board exam. They're not limited to 60 days before graduation.
No, we have to have our VTNE national exam passed, and that has to be after graduation. They haven't changed that yet.
But 120 days would put it in the final semester, right?
Right.
And basically at that point, I would assume the final semester, you know if you're gonna graduate or not.
I would know sometimes.
Well, I think the team who would certify,
But if they weren't, they're not gonna get a letter certified
The
by the
letter.
team, so that's the
Yeah.
safety point.
Yeah, I mean, if
Totally.
they take it and then they don't end up using it, then no harm, no foul. You
Yeah.
know, if they don't end up graduating, it doesn't hurt us at all.
Any other discussion?
So I'm looking for the unintended consequences or issues that may come up. So say they've got their NAVLE and now they've taken, at that time in February, they have gotten the approval, they take the state exam, they pass, and then something unforeseen happens. They get to April, May, and they're not graduating. But then whatever unforeseen that happened gets cleared up in June, July. And do they get another letter from the dean? How does that clear them to practice, depending on what happened? Short of, their parents died, they had to leave for the last 2 months and didn't get to graduate.
Be specific to the college what they wanted to do, but as long as we get the proof of graduation, that's what we need.
So they wouldn't then actually graduate when everyone else did, they would graduate later. And then at that time, their license would be active.
We would license them at that time.
Okay.
They
And I know
wouldn't
that
issue the
happens.
license-
It happens.
It does happen.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't issue the license until they had evidence of graduation.
Okay.
There are many students that actually walk the stage, they don't get their diploma because they have to repeat a
Class.
class.
Yeah.
That's correct, that happens all the time. Okay, any other questions? All right, we're gonna vote on the motion. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? We have a. Sue Allen, I didn't know, were you a nay or a yay?
For the 120 days, just for clarification, or no time?
For 120, to make the change from 90 days to 120.
60.
60 days to 100. Okay, then the motion passes. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 9, discussion, recommendation, and possible action regarding appointment of members to the Equine Dental Provider Advisory Committee. And basically what I need to do today is announce a new appointment. Previously, Joe Pluhar, veterinarian from Navasota, has served in this capacity. But part of the requirements to serve on this committee is that you are overseeing an equine dental provider in your practice. And Dr. Pluhar has moved and opened his own practice, in which case he does not have an equine dental provider. Therefore, by statute, he's no longer qualified. So with that being the case, I am going to, in his replacement, appoint Bill Stone from Katie Equine as our new equine dental provider veterinarian. And that will be as effectively at the end of this meeting. So that appointment has been made. Dr. Stone in Katie has done a tremendous job overseeing equine dental providers for years, and will serve this position well.
Do you need a motion or?
No,
It's a
just an appointment. Any discussion, questions? Right. Okay, item number 10, consideration and possible recommendation to the Texas Commissions of License and Regulation regarding the approval of agreed orders. I recognize Ms. Phelps for this agenda item number 10.
Dr. Gola, I've been notified a board member would like to pull case CP 22361 for executive session. And aside from the recusals noted on the agenda, would any board members like to be recused from any cases or pull any additional cases for executive session?
Did anybody pull CP 23158?
No.
I'd like to, please.
It's not on the.
Oh, sorry, not on agreed orders. Are we doing this all at once?
No, this is just specific.
Just, sorry, we sometimes do it all at once. Okay.
So no recusals, no additional cases.
Okay. With that being the case, is there a motion to recommend approval of the agreed orders in this agenda item other than CP 23261?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Pardue and seconded by Dr. Skaggs. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The question was which item was pulled. I have CP 23261. Is that correct?
22.
22. Let the record reflect that CP 22261 was pulled, not 23. My mistake. Okay,
Sorry,
next.
Dr. Gola, I'm not seeing that one.
Is that not the one?
CP 22361.
Let the record reflect, CP 22361. It's a month. Agenda item number 11, consideration and possible recommendation to the Texas Commission on Licensing and Regulation regarding dismissal of cases from informal conference. Mrs. Phelps, I recognize you for this agenda.
Aside from the recusals noted on the agenda, would any board members like to be recused from any of these cases regarding informal conference or pull any for executive session? None.
Okay. Is there a motion to recommend approval of the cases for dismissal in agenda item number 11, except there were none pulled, so there were no exceptions?
Move.
Second.
Dr. Kreiner has made the motion. Ms. Whitehead has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 12, consideration and possible recommendation to the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation regarding the dismissal of cases from staff conference. Chair recognizes Ms. Phelps on agenda item 12.
Aside from the recusals noted on the agenda, would any board members like to be recused from voting on any of these cases or wish to pull any of them for executive session?
Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to recommend approval of the cases for dismissal in agenda item 12?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Whitehead, second by Dr. Kreiner. Any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, agenda item number 13, consideration and possible recommendation to the Texas Commissioning of License and Regulation regarding the dismissal of cases for medical review. Again, I recognize Ms. Phelps for agenda item 13.
In addition to the recusals noted on the agenda, Dr. Gola is going to be recused from voting on CP 23-194, CP 23-244, and CP 23-256. Additionally, we had another board member request that CP 23-158 be pulled for executive session. In addition to these cases, would any board members like to be recused or pull any other cases for executive session?
I just want to clarify, CP 23-158 is the one provided by public comment today?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Is there, the written public comment we have says that there's another case as well, but that case isn't before us today?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Ms. Phelps, CP 23-169.
For executive session? Yes, please.
can you repeat the number?
CP 23-169.
Any others?
Dr. Gola, I'd like at this point to express my appreciation to Dr. Mixon for all of her hard work on these medical review cases. As Mike said earlier, we streamlined the process, and I think this is a big part of it. Having someone in that position to look over these cases in a timely fashion has been very, very nice. She does a wonderful job, so I'd like to say thank you to her.
I echo those sentiments. Looking over her work and all the intense reviews she does and the amount of time she puts in, it's very obvious that she does a great job.
She was perfect for the spot.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, is there a motion to recommend approval of the cases for dismissal in agenda item 13, except for CP 23-158 and CP 23-169?
Move.
Been moved by Dr. Kreiner, then second by Dr. Skaggs. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, at this point in the meeting, pursuant to chapter 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, this meeting of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners will now go into executive session at 9:59 a.m. I could ask you all to please clear the room, and we will let y'all know when we are done and bring you back. Thank you all. 7.1 of the Texas Government Code, the board has returned from executive session. No action was taken in executive session. All right, moving on, we're going to bring back, do I have a motion for the case dismissal of agreed order 22361?
Move?
Second.
We're moving for dismissal?
Yes.
Been moved and
No, no,
seconded.
no, wait,
Now,
no,
move
stop.
for approval.
Approval.
Approval. Okay.
So I asked, but-
Sorry. All right.
State your motion, please.
I move that we approve order CP 22361.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Dr. Kreiner. It has been seconded by Ms. Olivier. Any discussion on CP 22361? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, do I have a motion for the approval or dismissal of the agreed order CP 23158?
I move to dismiss case CP 23158.
Second.
It has been moved that we dismiss case CP 23158 by Ms. Whitehead and seconded by Dr. Kreiner. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there a motion for the case approval or dismissal for CP 23169?
I move that we move that to an informal conference.
Second.
It has been moved that we take CP 23169 and move it forward to an informal conference by Dr. Skaggs and seconded by Mr. Pardue. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Nay.
The record looks like one nay. Motion carries. Okay, I need to move back to agenda item 6 on staff reports. Ms. Sue Allen would like to make a comment in regarding that. So,
I've had a little bit of discussion with Wendy, as far as if we could establish some type of deadline for submission of CE review. For example, she was on vacation last week, which everybody deserves. We were caught up, and then she came back and she said, here's 4. And the first presentation on a couple of them were this week. And I'm not opposed to reviewing them quickly. But I think just out of respect for everybody's schedule, it would be nice to see like a 30-day minimum to submit for review. And I haven't visited with her as far as, she turns them over to me, I think, fairly quickly and efficiently. So we had one where they assumed it had been submitted. So that was a couple months ago, and they were in a panic because it was a pretty big event and we got it taken care of. But said you might suggest they follow up. But if we could have some consideration, even for anybody going forward and for Wendy to get them processed, I think it would be beneficial.
And Ms. Allen, thank you for bringing that up. We are also looking at our process of CE review and approval and, what we can do to streamline that overall. So that's as we're kind of getting ready for the next fiscal year, and we're kind of looking at that process anyways, we can definitely add that in. And
Okay, thank you.
yes, of course. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And Dr. Gold, if I may, while we've opened back up agenda item 6, I was remiss in my report not to introduce a very special guest we have with us today, the new executive director of TDLR, Ms. Courtney Arbor. If you want to come up and introduce yourself and.
Thank you, Brittany. Good morning,
morning.
everyone. My name is Courtney Arbor. I joined TDLR as the new executive director at the beginning of the month of June, so a few weeks in now. I spent the last 12 years prior to coming to TDLR at Texas Workforce Commission, where I was overseeing some regulatory work, but primarily working on the workforce pipeline in the state of Texas, helping to find out what employers need and what kind of industries are growing to then educate young people and help younger and adults be trained to work in those industries where veterinary and medicine sometimes would come up. So it's interesting how that work is informing a lot of what I'm seeing and doing at TDLR. I am meeting with Brittany regularly, and I see that our teams are working very well together and putting in a lot of hours and hard work. But every report I've heard is that everyone is working very collaboratively and feeling good about our temporary attachment and the work that we're all accomplishing together. So it's great to meet all of you. I'll share my business card at the end of the meeting. So if you need anything, please feel free to call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. We look forward to working with you. Okay, lastly, board members, do you have any future agenda items that you would like to propose?
Pending, when's our next meeting?
Next meeting is October the 22nd. That is a Tuesday in this room unless otherwise changed.
Okay, I'd like a specific item to review our LAR request. And have we done the strategic planning report yet?
Yes, that was submitted. The deadline was June. Candace, what? June
Okay,
1st.
could we just have an agenda item to walk through that
I sure can.
and discuss it as well?
Can.
So, ready to write? There were 2 strategic planning meetings. Is there a write-up to be provided for us so that we know more details of the conversations and the answers that were given? Or the discussions that were had?
We do have, so we were using a software where we're asking certain questions and getting feedback, and so we can share that feedback. But the draft of the strategic plan was circulated to the board, so you should have that in your emails. But we can get you those kind of the spreadsheet with the responses from the folks who participated in those meetings. Yes.
Great, thanks.
Is that it, Dr. Crowder? Dr. Goldman, I'm not really sure how to word this, but I think it would be a good idea if we could have the rules committee to kind of look over the definition of livestock, give us a specific direction on, in particular, whether horses are considered livestock, or kind of help us in some of our deliberations over the formal conferences. But if they could look into that, kind of seeing the definitions and give us a little guidance, I think it should be helpful going forward.
Okay, we could sure do that. Board members, any other suggested future agenda items? Okay, there being no further business to come before the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners, this meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all very much for being here today. Good job.